quick echo of my voice, that just means it's working.
Should we all introduce ourselves to Mary unless you all know her and I don't?
Are we live?
We're live.
Okay, good. All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's introduce ourselves to Mary, our new trustee. I think Mary knows me from a long time, through the Fitchburg Art Museum, where she was a curator when I first met her, and now she's here in Southborough. So welcome, Mary. And if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask any of the trustees. I'm sure we'd all be more than happy to fill you in on our experiences. Okay, that's it for me. How about, I don't know, Janet?
Janet Maney, been in town for, I was just trying to add that up, almost 40 years, I guess. So went through the whole kinder group, uh, SOS, all the phases, and then got into town. Um, I was on advisory and things like that. And then now I have graduated to the Board of Trustees. And I think I've been on for 4 years, something like that. So
Yeah.
still learning. Came to it with more town knowledge than library knowledge. So that's where I am. Three kids, older, two granddaughters, and I was just traveling to see them and just came back. It's me, David, Mary, David. I mean,
Well, I know Mary a little bit because I've sat in on a few friends meetings, so I feel like I know you, Mary. But yes, I'm the one person on the board who has a Y chromosome.
And we don't let him forget it.
Yeah,
reportedly.
anything else? Does that define you, David?
Pardon me?
I said, does that define you? That's it?
Uh, no, it doesn't define me. But no, I've been in town for a long time. Mary, kids went through partly through the public schools here and are now grown and gone. My wife is right now in California visiting our daughter and her son and two little boys who are not so little anymore, 9 and 12. And also have a son who's in New Jersey and has a daughter who's 9, who is just the sweetest and smartest and most athletic and most gregarious girl on the planet.
Okay, I'm Jane Davis. I have been a Southborough resident for 30 years. Um, I have two children. I've been on the board of trustees for close to 8 years. So I knew some of the old board members and Janet, David, Amy, and um, are newer. So I saw the previous board move in, move out, and so it's been nice. I have two children. They're grown, both in the area. I have one granddaughter who's 3 months old, so that's kind of cool. And I'm also the president of the Southborough Gardeners. So we have a lot of interaction between, what is that, Janet? You
I
know.
thought you finished that like 2 years ago.
No, I've done 2 years. It's about to end in June, but there's still
Okay.
some gardens to be planned and things to be figured out. So sorry about that. So anyway, on it goes. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Are we invited to the Friends meetings?
Yeah, I can send you guys the Zoom link. I need to be more proactive about that. The next one on June 12th is going to be in person, so you guys can attend. But I will say, Beth sends out the invitations to anybody who's joined the Friends. So if you have joined, then you would have been probably getting some of the invitations. So that's my little membership plug for them right there. How about
God, I
that?
was on it forever. I don't know how I ever dropped off. How do you join?
There is a form I can send you, and then you
Okay.
can either mail in a check or you can pay on PayPal now.
Oh,
Okay, so Mary, how about you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Mary Tinty. I've been in Southborough now for I think about 11 or 12 years. Um, Came to Southborough by way of South Boston for a couple years. And then I'm originally from Fairfield, Connecticut. So, and I should say that it's an honor to have been elected to the position. And I'm so excited for a wide variety of reasons. But on a personal and family note, my mother, who is also a Mary Tinty, for many years was involved in our hometown politics as an elected official. And in later years was also a member of her library board. So I feel like this is a very nice full circle little moment for my family. My background is in art history and museum studies. David, I was happy to hear you give a shout out for New Jersey. I did my graduate work at Rutgers, so New Jersey has a very near and dear place in my heart. I lived in around New Brunswick for several years while I was studying there. And yeah, I have my husband, Dave, and I have an almost 8-year-old who is a rising second grader. She's had a wonderful time at Mary Finn and is going to Woodward next year. Very excited about it. And I realized that I fully enjoyed and absorbed every volunteer opportunity I could at Finn. And I know that those parent volunteer opportunities get scarce as your kids get older. So I've been involved in the Friends of the Library, and I thought that this might be a nice next step to boost my involvement in town, while also sort of staying in the realm of the arts and humanities that I love so much.
Okay, now a little bit more about your prior employments.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So previous to, I guess, my most recent employment, I was the curator of the Fitchburg Art Museum. I was there for about 4 years. Previous to that, I had a curatorial fellowship for 2 years at the De Cordova Museum. And then before that, I had a brief 1-year fellowship at the New England Foundation for the Arts, where I focused on helping artists, specifically within the public art realm, network and build up their professional portfolio. And then previous to that, I was the artistic director at, or the deputy artistic director at Waterfire Providence for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then previous to that, I worked at getting my master's and PhDs in art history at Rutgers University.
Thank you. I think
You're
those
welcome.
are wonderful things to have accomplished.
Thank you.
So good. I will just say briefly, Mary, because sometimes it can be a little daunting. Usually in the meetings, we do the minutes from the last time, and then Ryan does the director's report, which contains what has happened since the last meeting that we need to know about. The expense report, which is a quick budget update on how much of we go fiscal year, right? It's a quick budget update on, what has been spent, what remains to be spent. And then usually we do items that come up that are current that we need to work on. So it kind of takes that shape every time. And with that, I will say, let us look at them approving the minutes for April 22nd. Does anybody have any emendations or corrections?
Mm-mm. No,
Wait a minute, I have to find my phone. My daughter-in-law's having a baby this week, and I have to make sure I just heard a bing of a text, and I want to make sure it's not that. Hold on.
We may a little bit jump around on
Yes,
the agenda
okay.
today. So just, I'm sorry about that, but we do think that ending with the library building program is probably the way to go. If you guys reviewed all the documents and
Okay.
doing, I think Marguerite would like to dispense with my evaluation before that.
Yes, and that shouldn't take that shouldn't take too long. All right, so just quickly, do we have emendations on the minutes?
Nope.
Do I have a
No.
motion to accept as written?
So
I
moved.
motion to accept. Okay, I second. Amy.
Okay, all those in
Amy.
favor, we're on Zoom, so we have to do a Landry aye.
Davis, I.
Maney, I.
Ekberg,
Yes,
aye.
Donnie. Yes, Donnie. I.
Tinty, I.
Yes, done, your first vote. Okay, the minutes are
But
accepted.
except Wait a
As
minute, Mary
written.
wasn't, you weren't in attendance.
I was not. I did read the minutes. I don't, so however you need to legally do this,
Yeah.
by all means.
Legally you can
Yeah.
okay minutes if you weren't there.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yep.
Janet, you can
Okay.
take a vote, because what has happened in the past, just to clarify, is that trustees who have not been at the meetings can abstain from the votes.
Right.
But if you read them and you're just confirming that the minutes are okay, that it's permissible to do that even if you were not at the meeting. You can check with Jim if you want, but that's
Yeah, we've
okay.
yeah. I know it doesn't make sense, but it's legal. So there it is. Anyway, okay. Next order of business, the director's report. Ryan, take it away.
Lots in there. The damage to the children's room is fixed, so that's a good place to start. Kim got a new computer in her office, which I think we're all really excited about. I think it's the first computer in the library that's on the Windows 11 operating system, so we're all kind of practicing and making sure we can use it. I'm opening several facilities tickets. We're finding more lights that are just going out, because we, have a lot of lights and they need replacements. Some updates from the Friends. The Fudge fundraiser is going on right now. It may be over by the time that the next trustees meeting happens. It definitely will be, because it's ending by the end of this month. So if you guys are interested in participating, there's order forms online. There was also a reminder that went out with the e-newsletter this morning. The t-shirt, sweatshirt fundraiser they did was a big success. So I just wanted to note that. That was the first year they tried it, and I think there's already some momentum to maybe do that as potentially an annual if they want. But again, that's going to be up to them and their discussions. They're actively coming up with additional fundraising ideas, which I think is great. And we have a great liaison now who can talk about Friends stuff if she wants. Some program updates. Those are pretty self-explanatory. I think we're landing on an early August date for the escape room, so that'll be fun. We'll see how that goes. The artist closing reception, if you guys want to come to the library for a little party. I put on the director's report that it's at 7 p.m. That's a typo. The artist reception is actually at 6. So I apologize about that. So if you want to come, it's a little bit on the earlier side. At 7, I think it'll still be going on, but it might be more wrapping up. I do know that Rajani shared with me yesterday that she has created a piece of art for permanent display at the library that she's going to bring and give a donation to at the reception, which I thought is I did not know she was going to do that. And I'm very happy that she created something original for us. The rest of it is all about the library building program. I won't bury the lead. I will say it looks like we're gonna have to, so I'll talk more about this when we get to the agenda item, but I need to know if a quorum of board members is available, not this upcoming Friday, but Friday, May 31st, to meet again, most likely at this time in the morning, so that we could do a final approval on the building program before it's submitted. So just to give you guys an idea, the meeting could be longer if you guys want to go over anything specific. There will not be multiple documents submitted like there was for this meeting, but that Microsoft Word version that you got, which has sort of the formatted options, you're going to get that with the stuff from the other document integrated into it. If anybody wants to help on this in the next 2 weeks, this is the crunch time now. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but we'll talk more about this, I think, when we get to it.
Can I just open this up a tiny bit, because Ryan and I were on the phone before the meeting. This document has to be in before the 31st of May. As David saw when he looked at it, it's quite large and it needs a lot of data in it. It needs alternate sites for the building. It needs information on demographics. It's huge. So the thought was, and we can talk about it later, that maybe it would be possible for certain members of the trustees to at least gather some data that could be put in for this. And we will need to have another meeting next week before this to approve what's there. So, Mary, I hate to say this, but you joined the board when we are really, the rubber is hitting the road on this building situation, and it's going to require probably more time and effort from most of the trustees, at least until we hire the project manager for it. And my hope is that it doesn't all land on Ryan to do.
I can help out next week,
Good.
and I can make
Great.
a meeting on the 31st, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we won't meet on the 31st because that's when it's due. Ryan, when do you
Okay.
want to?
I
Well,
thought you'd said you wanted a meeting that day.
correct.
On
So
the 31st?
we do need to meet on the 31st,
Okay, all
Marguerite,
right.
because
Okay,
there
sorry, my
needs to
bad.
be
Right.
a vote. You guys need
Okay.
to vote to approve it.
All right.
So
Do you need to meet before that?
Yes, no, I know that. I can
I
do
think
both.
I
can do
think what I'll
both.
do,
Okay.
yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll set up maybe some individual meetings if people are around and they have time to do this.
You
Because I
mean
don't
one-on-one
know,
with you?
yeah, who's
Okay.
traveling and who isn't, and I can start sort of assigning specific parts. So we'll talk more about kind of what I'm looking for in a little bit. So I'm sorry, I said we were going to talk about this later, and then I immediately started talking about it because this is all I've been thinking about.
It's a huge
So
thing, and I know it's like nervous breakdown territory. Okay, so
I'm doing okay, everyone. But you saw when Janet asked me if I was doing okay, that I seemed like maybe I wasn't okay for a minute, and it's
Start
because
pulling
I've been
your
working
hair
on
out.
this all
It's kind of a
weekend.
clue.
Yeah.
Janet's usual psychic ability to see what's really going on. So should we say we'll meet
Well-
on the 31st at 11? Can we do that
Oh,
just
11,
right
okay.
now?
That
Yeah,
works for me.
All
Okay.
right.
fine.
Mary, you good on that?
Thank you. You'll get a calendar notification.
Okay,
sorry,
so
Mary.
okay, so back to the director's
Wait.
report. Sorry.
Sorry, Mary was trying to say something. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm on lunch duty at Mary Finn that day, but I can see I'm
If
I
you
might be
can
able to
come
give you
in on
half an
your
hour.
phone, can you come in on your phone? Or just,
I
don't know
I
about
could give you
that.
a half an hour from 11 to 11:30,
When
or I
Mary,
could do it later in the afternoon.
yeah, Mary, when would you be post lunch duty and ready potentially to sit down and do like a quick meeting?
Can I sorry.
Well, can I stop for 1 second? This is a rubber stamp, right? We're not going to be making changes on that day.
no, correct.
No.
You're just gonna
So this
okay.
is an 11 to 11:05 meeting if it starts at 11.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally we have to call it to order. You guys vote on the building program, and then I have the approval date of the 31st. Like
Yeah.
as silly as that sounds, that needs to be something that happens
Okay.
Yeah, no,
before
that's
we
fine.
submit it.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, we can get that done. And Mary, again, it's possible just to call in your vote. You don't even have to.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people do that. They just call and use a speakerphone, and they're present at the meeting technically. So
I can touch base with Mary, and if people are available like later in the afternoon, I'll just check with
Okay.
everybody on people's availability time. Doing it at 1 or 2 doesn't matter, as long as I can submit it before the end of the day, which
okay.
literally this will be the last piece to submit.
Okay.
So it's, you know,
It'll be fine.
yeah. Sorry,
Well,
Mary, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just it kind of put me on the spot last week when I realized the board needed to approve this. And then I was trying to get it done earlier. And then that wasn't, you saw what I sent you guys. That's not going to happen. Like I need the full next 2 weeks to get this done. So.
It'll help.
Okay, good. So anything else in the director's report?
We didn't talk about budget, which kind of leads into the expense report. I don't know if anybody had any questions at this point about anything going on with the budget.
Looks good.
No, it looks good.
I do
Looks
have one
great.
question going back to the director's report. The
Yeah.
first item you brought up, give me another sentence or two to make sure I understand. You talked about the new computer that is downstairs and it's going to trigger, there's going to be a ripple effect on technology through other computer users. Is that your point?
Some of the newer computers that Jay has bought for the library can be upgraded to Windows 11, and we have been holding off on that because we wanted to make all of the operating systems pretty consistent. I think what's happening now is that the computers that IT is going to install are going to have to be on Windows 11. So I'm gonna talk to Jay. Jay and I are now doing bi-monthly meetings bi-week, like we're trying to meet twice a month just to talk about technology issues. I won't lie to we should have been probably doing that before now, but it's just been hard with how busy everything is. So he's also giving input on the library building program. That was a lot about what we talked about last time. And then he's also been helping with some of what I like to call creepy printer issues, which are not because they're creepy, but because they're these issues that seem to creep up every so often, right? Like it's saying the toner is low, but the toner isn't low. So he's trying to figure out how to diagnose some of these problems. We also there was like a part that needed to be replaced in one of the printer. He was able to help me identify that. And then we found out the part that needed to be replaced only costed $20. So it was, it caused a lot of the staff weren't able to use it for printing correctly for like a year, and I didn't realize it was a $20 fix. So these meetings are already really helpful, but I'm going a lot into the weeds on this. So we did talk about getting a replacement printer, because I don't know if you guys have been there when old Screechy is going off, but anytime Leah or Carol, I see a lot of smiles and nods right now. But like when Leah's trying to print labels or trying to print labels for anything, you hear like Freddy Krueger fingernails just screeching down. So we're trying to buy a model of printer that doesn't like it's the same one, but we're hoping just this one doesn't do it. And then that printer still works is the good news. So we'll be able to reallocate it somewhere else, and maybe not for label printing is what we thought, because it alerts the whole library upstairs that you're printing something. It's that loud.
Is that another $20 part, or is it not worth fixing?
Oh, the printer is going to cost, the new printer costed over $700. So it was not inexpensive. But the toner, since it's an equivalent printer, it's going to be the same toner that we had for the other one. So that's the good news. We don't need to make a reinvestment in all of the toner costs. This was really, we talked last month about the dues money, how there was some left over to go to the conference. Kim didn't have an interest in going to MLA after just getting back from vacation. So Mariana and I went, and then we had basically the printer money that we used to buy this replacement printer is all the dues money that was left. So I think there's like $10 left. So
Well done. Well done, Ryan. Anyway.
Thank you.
Okay. David, does that solve the question for you?
Yes, thank you.
All righty. And there it is. Okay, so Ryan, you want to put the public library construction program and the approval of library building program last on the agenda today?
Yeah, the approval of library building program is just going to be the agenda item for the 31st. So
Okay,
that'll
all
be
right.
tabled
Okay.
now.
Good.
And we can talk about the construction program more at the end. Janet, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I didn't know if you wanted to give a Gardens That Work update at all. If not, we can just move on.
We
Yeah,
have to do
no, I
your
wasn't-
eval too. How
There
about
was a
gardens?
meeting last week that
Yeah.
I wasn't here for, so did anything come up on that, or did you hear anything, Ryan?
I unfortunately, I know Freddie was running a little bit late, and then no one, I think, came to the meeting. So there was no attendance, but there was attendance at the one before that. So we
Right,
were
that
trying to
was that
figure,
one.
yeah, we were trying to figure out maybe why, or if people got the nights mixed up or something. So
Yeah.
I did promote it at International Night. So I will say it felt almost like a personal slight against me that no one came, because I was actually talking it up as a volunteer opportunity to some of I think I issued cards to 3 new 7th graders, and they were asking me about volunteering, and I gave them a specific flyer for the Gardens That Work. So maybe it was just a bad night is what I'm thinking. It's some nights we have a lot of people, some nights we don't.
But
So
the fewest we've ever had is something like 8 or 9, so that's surprising that it was 0, but maybe something
Yeah.
else was going on that night. Yeah, okay,
May is crazy.
yes.
Yeah,
May is crazy.
Yeah.
June is not much better. Usually.
No. All right, so we'll sort of bring that up again next meeting, I guess, or maybe not. I'd like to move to the director evaluation. You all got a copy of the draft that I put together. I had everyone's sentences verbatim in there. David this morning gave me some line edits, just typos, which are, like trustees capitalized or not capitalized. Let's get consistent here, Marguerite. So I think, does anyone have any questions on comments that went in, or and also the grades that you got, the grades, Ryan. I hate to say we're giving you grades, but there it is. The
Ratings.
the ratings. Thank you, Janet. Much more diplomatic. Anyway, those are the average of everybody's numbers, including Kim Regan's, because she was counted in here, divided by 6. So those are fairly cut and dried. What we need to think about right now is the goals for next year and whether Ryan met the goals for last year. And the goals for last year were standardize the job descriptions for personnel. Done. Okay. Date actually completed. When were those completed, Ryan? Like a couple of months ago?
January?
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
right? I'm guessing.
All right. I think January sounds really good. Okay. How about implement surveys, forums for strategic plan and construction? That was definitely met. I would say, when was the last? Well, what do you think? April? When was that? When the last meetings were held? It was before town meeting, though, wasn't it? When did you
When was,
finish?
sorry, what was the question?
When did you
Margaret?
finish the forums and the? I have to put down
Oh,
date of actual completion on this.
yeah. It was in April.
April. Okay, that's good. And then the
Oh,
last one,
March. No, I'm sorry. The last
March.
one was in March. It was right before the town meeting.
Okay, yeah. Okay, March 24 and
Because town
develop.
meeting was in March. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Develop public-facing communication for future construction project. That's kind of, you did it all year. So let's say completion date would be, want to say, you're still doing it, actually.
Oh, I sometimes say like 2023/2024. I've done that on reviews before. Or you could still say still in progress.
Okay. Ongoing. How's that?
Ongoing, that's the
Ongoing
word.
works too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Update strategic plan. This has shown up as a goal almost every year since I can remember. Was there any updating of the strategic plan? This came over from last.
Oh, so this can be a goal. So you can say that you could kind of take the same tack that you did with just the previous thing we talked about, where you say it's
Ongoing.
still ongoing.
Yeah.
But so we're going to be doing a new strategic plan is going to
Mhm.
be submitted this fall that you
Okay.
guys are going to have to vote on. A lot of the community data that
Yeah.
we have garnered as part of the building program is
Okay.
going to go into the strategic plan.
Yeah.
To be blunt, whether we get the MPLCP grant or not.
Okay.
So a lot of the outcomes for the strategic plan are going to be more about space, about building overall, about because really we're doing a lot of the strategic planning work now. We've
Okay.
reached out to the community a lot. So in a weird way, like I don't want to say we're double dipping because I think we might do one more survey over the summer. But we've gotten a lot of the information that we need. I think the thing that we're kind of curious to explore is we haven't asked a lot about programming, which tends to be something we like to get public feedback on. So that's just the last piece of the strategic plan I'd like to hit, if that's
Okay.
as far as
All right.
community input.
All right, that's good. So, moving right along, I'm going to say ongoing on update strategic plan. Does that work for you? And then, do you want to, for goal task project for the next year, do you want to have create new strategic plan?
Sure.
Okay, so is everybody okay with using that as one of the goals?
Yes.
And what do you want for completion date on that?
It has to get done by, if you say November of this year, I think it has to get submitted in October. You could say
Okay, so
October.
Okay, so
October.
or November. It doesn't. I mean, it's not like everybody's looking this over with a gimlet eye.
This
Okay,
is very similar to the thing we have to do on Friday, a week from Friday. You guys have to approve the final strategic plan. So then there's a deadline for it that needs to get submitted to the state, and that'll be FY25 through
yeah.
FY29 or 30, whichever
Okay.
one.
All right. Okay, so for another goal or project, continue with MPLPL grant application and follow-up work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
MPLCP grant. I finally have the
MPLCPL, sorry, got the acronym.
Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program.
Oh, wait a minute, okay, Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program, where's the last L in there?
There
It's
isn't.
MPLCP.
Okay, thank you, all right, that's known as acronyms gone wild. Okay, here
It
we
took
go.
me like 2 years to get it
To
right.
remember it, it's like the
Finally in this
acronym for,
meeting.
yeah, okay, so continue with MPLCP grant application and follow-up work. Is that a reasonable goal for the next year?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so date for completion, how about
Well,
June 31st, 2025 or something? The fiscal year, basically.
I'm wondering whether we should amend it to include or have a separate thing for, if we get a grant, then next steps in terms of publicizing and getting community support for an actual edition.
Yes,
Well,
and that may be another goal, because
Maybe we
all I'm
could break
seeing for
that up.
Ryan's goals for this coming year is construction, 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 various, I mean, this whole thing about this grant application, which is huge, and then hiring an OPM if we get it. I don't know, Ryan, help me out here, because if you would need 4 goals for the coming year, what do you think the main 4 things that you'll be working on are going to be?
Well, I think you can kind of expand upon what the expectations are, Janet, for what the goal is for me. But I would also say, I mean, really a lot of the work has to happen in the next 2 weeks on the program. But
Yeah.
then, like, let's say we don't get the grant, for instance, there's going to be another grant round that opens up in a couple years. So I think a lot of what has to be done if we don't get the grant, for instance, is what do we need to do as the next steps to try to get it next time. Does that make
Preparation,
sense?
yeah.
So like I think that there's outcomes and you really will be kind of evaluating me on some of this prior to June would be the other thing, Marguerite. I would say, because we start kind of talking about the evaluation process, because you have to spread it over several meetings and several months. I would really say like probably April of next year might be a
Okay.
better benchmark.
Okay, so April 25.
Yeah.
All right.
If you want my feedback, which is
No, this is important. So can I leave this language, continue with MPLCP, grant application and follow-up work? I think that's
yeah, because
kind
I
of
think that
suitably
I think
broad.
that covers getting the grant and also not getting the grant. Does that make
Oh.
sense?
Yes, it's
Yep.
vague enough that it covers
Yes.
either
Yeah,
eventually.
it's good. Follow-up work would cover a lot of that. Okay, that's good. And then another trustee had sent in, continue to apply for grants to increase teen usage.
Well, I mean, that would probably be more a goal for Mariana than myself,
Okay,
would be my feedback.
yep.
But I'm happy to aid her. Mariana and I do sort of have consistent conversations about grant opportunities and
What about
trying to
just
get
continue
money.
to apply for grants, period?
I mean, this is the
That's not a
only,
good goal, but that's not a good goal.
Well, what do you think besides teen usage or any other?
well, I signed up and I'm currently in the very early stages of renewing my MCPPO certification, which
Okay,
for the record is, because I looked it up, is the Massachusetts Certified Public Purchasing Official. So just because Mary, I don't think was here when you might have seen this in a previous meeting you watched, but during COVID, I got certified as a purchasing official so that I could understand better how to implement our CPA project. So it's more relevant now because I'm going to be eventually, like, hopefully involved in a construction project with the library soon. So I'm in the process of renewing that. And what I learned is that the renewal process is almost just as intensive as the initial class. Like I think I have to do 7 separate things, and 2 of them are like formal online classes where I have homework. So I'm going to be doing this through, I think, July of next. So even though it's an early goal, there's a lot of extra work I have to do as part of that.
Okay, so with the wording,
That should be the goal.
I think so too. Obtain MCCPO, are those the right letters?
Yeah, it's
Certification renewal.
MCPPO. Yeah,
EPO.
What is it? Say it again.
MCPPO.
MC2PPOs. Okay. Okay, so obtain MCPPO certification renewal.
It's renewal designation. I know,
Alright,
that's the
okay.
language they use.
All right. Is that okay with everybody? And with the date of July
July.
2025?
Sure.
Okay, good. So that's 3 goals: strategic plan, grant application and follow-up, and the MCPPO. One trustee suggested work with the town to develop adjacent land with suitable landscaping. I think I know what we're talking about, the situation under the trees.
Situation.
Yes, the event under the trees, right? The is this a good goal? What do we think? Do something about the backyard, basically, right? Right, Jane?
Yes.
Well, Freddie keeps talking about submitting a grant, but we could take leadership on that and submit the grant application
You
for,
mean the trustees or the library?
Which
I guess I was using the royal we, I meant Ryan.
we, which we are we.
Ryan, right?
What do you think, Ryan? You want to just,
It's probably.
I mean, I definitely, I don't want to step on Freddie's toes too, because I don't exactly know what she was envisioning. I know that we've had Freddie and I have both independently had some initial conversations with Bill Cundiff, who's our new DPW superintendent, who is fantastic. I think I've said this before, and I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk to him. So I don't know if it's just a matter of clearing the trees. I think DPW can eventually get that done. And I don't know that that is a grant application, if that makes sense. I think that's more coordinating with DPW on ground outcomes. That's a goal. You could say that as a goal, but I think if there's a grant that Freddie has envisioned, like with working with CPA, for instance, I think that's a separate conversation about what she wants as far as the outcomes. And I'm happy to aid in that process, but I don't know that I would feel comfortable taking like a lead on it.
Okay, can I just ask Jane, since she is basically the trustee who has the most expertise and interest in the landscaping, what she, as trustee, would consider a reasonable way to move forward on the potentiality that is the back of the library right now. Under those trees looks terrible. It's all brush. There's a dying cherry. There's going to be the new park, which is going to look lovely, and then there's still this one area that looks like the land that time forgot back there. Jane, what do you think would be the best way to?
Well, I think first, as Ryan said, we need to work with the DPW and see how much they can contribute before we have to spend money. I've also been back and forth with them about the library garden, which is more toward the street, and whether they'll mulch that or not. So I think I've opened up a channel of communication, and I think I can explore that further, but I don't think they're going to do a lot of extra planting and things, but we need to clean it up. That was my idea.
Yeah, definitely. I
Sorry.
think that's a good idea. Yep.
But Ryan, I know that's not top of mind, so I think that shouldn't maybe be one of the goals, maybe just in your back pocket or something. We'll look into that, but I wouldn't put it on Ryan.
Okay, but it is something that needs to be attended to, and if you want,
Sure, but there's
I'll
more
also-
important. These first 3 are much more important.
I-
Order of magnitude, let's say.
This can also, like, this is a good example, not to again like bury the lead, but like putting something like what Jane just said into a potential building program talks about how it's like a long-term goal that
Yeah.
it's really a short-term goal, right? But it's a goal that we have is cleaning up that area.
Yeah.
And that can also be if we're actively doing work on the grounds as part of the construction program later,
Yeah,
that might be
definitely.
an opportunity at that point to get that work done because DPW would be here anyway, right? But I also think it's kind of important to list that and to talk about it now, because if we don't get the grant money, right, we have to look at both scenarios, is that is still something I think that could be done prior to resubmitting a grant application in the future.
Well, it's also if you're going to do an addition, that whole area is going to be torn up anyway. But I think just in terms of, do we have to spend another summer looking at broken branches and leaf piles? And I think,
We don't.
yeah,
We can get
exactly.
into that. We'll, yeah.
I think it isn't that huge a thing, but it's an important thing.
Well, the
And
other part is that I'm not sure where else it's mentioned. Obviously in Ryan's job description and in the rating, we talked about his maintenance of the building and the grounds and whatever. But sometimes the grounds are a bigger deal than that and take a lot of his time. So I'm wondering whether having a goal would help him get more credit for that.
I don't know. The only other goal I think that I think is important at this point is that we need to do more active integration with the Friends group. And there's a question of fundraising also, which may be part of the integration with the Friends. But there are two other, in addition to the landscaping, and these goals are all goals that trustees submitted as possibilities for this year. Okay, so the integrate with the Friends group was one, and fundraising was another one. So these are also, we can't have 7 goals, I don't think, but we can have 4, and we're already up to 3. The landscaping, I think, would be something that should
Yeah,
be,
that's not as important as the others.
yeah, I think
I
it's
don't
not,
think
but I
it is.
think it is, and I think Jane is our expert on making things beautiful around the library. So if you want support on that, Jay, we're all here for you.
Okay, good. Can you rake?
Anyway, because it looks right in the front. It really does. Okay, so if we could, the other goals were integrate with the Friends group better and fundraising. 2 separate things or one thing, I don't know. I put them both on the same line because I didn't have another line.
Well, I do think that we need to explore coming up with vehicles for more organized fundraising for the building. And I think that is something that could be it's not like, again, so many of these goals end up being stuff I have to either do with all of you or I have to do with the staff. But like having like either a building endowment, creating like a community, you know what I mean? A lot of what Marguerite, I think, has explored in the past as far as looking at independent fundraising options. She was doing that before I was director. So, I mean, that's something, Marguerite, that I think you and I maybe could work on together. But I do like the idea of bringing back some sort of proposal to talk about because the Friends are a powerful group on fundraising, especially right now, because I think they have a lot of momentum. I think there's a lot of energy there to do fundraising. But I also think we need to look at what I'm calling sort of like is larger scale. Is there things we can explore with planned giving? Is there stuff we can plan with like endowments? Like, I think we need to start looking in those terms. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I just, that's all sounds like Board of Trustees stuff, not director stuff. I think you'd need to facilitate it. I think you'd need to provide info and feedback and stuff, but absolutely funding mechanisms and stuff sounds Board of Trustee to me.
I don't disagree. So maybe that's not a goal, but I would just say that's kind of where my thinking is on fundraising. And I don't think that that's something that really falls on me in particular. Like it's not a Ryan
No,
outcome.
you facilitate communications between the different groups, maybe. But,
Mary has her hand up.
yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't directly about this, so I want to be patient with this conversation if you want to keep
No,
going
we
with it.
interrupt each other all the time. Feel
Yeah,
free.
you don't
Okay,
have to put your
perfect.
hand up.
So I don't mean to throw something like a curveball here, because I'm so new, but it dawned on me, I've just been hearing a lot of like preliminary chatter about the town's tricentennial. And I didn't know if like I know the friends are thinking about it very loosely in a preliminary way, and I wasn't sure whether that dovetailed with anything emerging from for the library in the next year that Ryan might need to help coordinate or collaborate with other town institutions and departments on. So just a thought about that.
Yeah,
Are
good
you
thought,
on the
Mary.
committee, Ryan?
So no, I have, I'm probably gonna go speak to the committee relatively soon. We have talked about some initial collaborative, I should say potential collaborative partnerships between, what will be the tricentennial and the library. It most likely is going to take place, I believe, in a similar way to how Heritage Day is set up. So it will be like on St. Mark's Field. So like the library is going to be right across the street. So it makes sense. I think we're going to be kind of the closest town department to where the festivities are going on. So we've, I don't know if that means that the Friends will want to host a book sale or something like that. We've kind of talked about that as an initial idea. And then what are the other potential collaborative efforts we could kind of put together. I know that the Tricentennial Committee meets in person. So that's a little bit more challenging to try to find time because it's not on Zoom, but they were without a space, and they actually had a meeting at the library a couple weeks ago. So we're kind of on their radar because they all had to come in to meet. So I don't know how much of a goal that is, only because part of my job is kind of working with different community groups and community organizations. So, I mean, I think there's a greater
so-
goal there to explore new community and collaborative partnerships maybe, and to kind of look at the Tricentennial Committee as an example of that.
So I think that was a really good thing to bring up. Here's the thing, Tricentennial is going to be 2027, right?
Yeah.
The little park that's right next to the library is going to be part of that. If we have gotten our grant, and hopefully it'll be, I'm hoping, knock wood, for an addition to where we are now. Is there going to be construction going on at that time?
I think we get the money in 26.
So yes.
It's earlier than I thought. So it's possible.
This is something to think about if we're going to be, oh my God, if we're going to be all torn up in the middle of the tricentennial celebration.
Well, I
It's
think timing has a
possible.
lot to do.
But now,
It's possible, we can't really change that.
Well, maybe it'll be a good thing.
Yeah. My other thing is the integration with the Friends. I don't think that's a Ryan job. I think it's a trustee job, if
Okay.
that's going to happen.
Okay. Can I call you right back? Okay, bye. Not baby, not baby. Sorry.
just as a quick aside, because I probably should tell everybody that the Tricentennial Committee is setting up a fundraising thing of, what is it, a 503, whatever it is, so that you can make donations and they're tax deductible. And they needed a board of directors for that. So I was asked to be part of that. So I don't know whether that's, I might get information that I could pass on, things like that, but
That'll
just
be good.
know that I'll be on that.
It's a 501c3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janet.
I'm mainly stating that for when Mariana does the minutes.
Yes.
So that they can, yeah. And C is in parentheticals, but Mariana, you're listening and I will help you with that part.
Yeah,
It's
501.
an important, thank you for doing that.
Lowercase
Jacob.
c. Well, I was assured that it was only going to be a couple of hours a month. I've heard
Yeah.
those things before.
Mhm.
Oh, Janet, and you believe that?
You believe
I
that?
know. One should know better, but
You know
does
better.
Okay, so listen, because we're going to move into the subject of the grant application, let me just say okay, for goals for next year. 1, create a new strategic plan. 2, obtain the MCPPO certification renewal designation by July 25th. That's number 2. And then 3, continue with MPLCP grant application and follow-up work. Deadline of April. Is that enough goals for Ryan for this year?
Those three are good. Let's just stay with those three.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I
That's
agree, especially with the building thing going on.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Okay, so to move to professional development, in conjunction with supervisor, the employee should develop several training initiatives for the upcoming years. Is that going to be the MCPPO certification renewal designation? Should we put that
No.
there?
So we do this now since they redid the form. There are standardized language I put in everybody's
Review.
review. Thank you, Jane. So basically I put in a goal to do a Maya training, which is the Massachusetts Interlocal Association. It's the insurance. So they do a lot of good the professional development trainings, which
Okay.
also gives the town an insurance credit. And
Yeah.
then I do like an MBLC training, of which I've done many because of the construction thing and will
All right.
continue to do. And
Yeah.
then there's MLS does trainings as well. So the idea is that I will take one of those trainings throughout the year to kind of refresh my professional development. And also I've attended a lot more conferences in the past year
Yeah.
because I went to PLA and MLA and I was able to attend sessions at those. So
Okay, so do you want me to do 1, 2, and 3? One is MIA, one is MBLC, and one is MLS?
well, why don't I send you what I put in the
Okay.
evaluations, Marguerite, and then
All
you
right.
can go from there.
Okay, is that fine with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the final comment, supervisor comments. Ryan has continued to work as a strong, knowledgeable, dependable, collaborative, enthusiastic, hardworking, caring, creative, flexible, and supportive leader of our library. The patrons, staff, board, and town, that's a new add-in from David, are fortunate to have Ryan as our director. We rely on his creativity and guidance as we continue to explore expansion/renovation. Is that okay for supervisor comments?
I think so.
I ran out of adjectives at a certain point. Okay, it's very close to my C4. All right, so do I have a motion to accept the SAP performance appraisal for Ryan as amended?
So moved.
All right, Amy.
Second,
Okay, Landry, aye.
Yes,
Davis,
Donnie,
aye.
I.
Okay,
David, I.
Maney, I.
okay. Mariana, that's everyone did an aye. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Mary
Ryan.
didn't get to aye.
Mary-
Tinty eye.
Mary didn't
Oh,
get to
Tinty.
aye.
Oh God, Mary, sorry. Yes,
It's
you have
okay.
to
You're
elbow
not
your way
used to
into this
listening for
group.
Tinty.
But she has learned to speak up.
Good
Yes,
girl.
you have to sort of elbow your way to the front with this group.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so
so
done for another year. Thank you, everyone.
so
Now,
but Marguerite, sorry, we're not done on my evaluation though. So
okay.
you guys do have to approve the amount that I get paid. That's
Mm,
part of it.
Okay.
I know, uncomfortable. So
No, it's not enough. Whatever it is, it should be more. Okay, so
well,
what's your
that's
current
not
pay?
this is I don't think they should send you into the salary negotiations there, lady. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think we should.
I believe, and we have to double check this with Emily, who's our payroll and benefits coordinator, but my pay will be going up to $48.86 a hour.
Okay,
So I'm
that's
just,
the proposed pay rate, right?
yes, so that is the 4% increase
Yeah.
that all the employees under SAP were recommended under the personnel board. So
Okay.
I'm just letting you know that Marguerite and I have to complete the cover sheet that also includes my comments, but I think it's important for you guys to know what the pay rate is before going into it. So you already approved it, which is fine. I think it's fine to leave it the way it is, but so you're aware that's what the pay scale is.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any action required from the board on this? Votes? No? Yes? Do we vote for the
No, I think
4%?
I think you should send the final version of the cover sheet, which the personnel board will get,
Mm-hmm.
to the rest of the trustees once it's done.
All right.
I'll be submitting those, I think, with the rest of the employees, which I'm working on after the building program. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So I'm gonna be working on all of those and then sending them into personnel. So I will, you'll get a copy of mine as well.
All right,
You will
I'll
get a
just
copy of the
send the
employees. You'll get a
completed, I'll
copy of
send the
mine.
completed eval to everybody. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
good.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you, Ryan, for making that right. All right, so there, all right. Now, the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program.
Well, we
Mm.
haven't been talking about that the whole time. So the staff have contributed a lot to this. There are some glaring omissions. I think a lot more needs to be added to the overall building program. Also, as we format it, I am including visuals. The visual thing is definitely more me because I've kept kind of a photo archive, including of all of the systemic damage we've ever had to the building. So there's quite the photo gallery on the flood, I can tell you, that I can include, which many of you have seen in previous town meeting presentations, right? I try to include happy pictures, but I also have the less happy pictures, which will be going into the program because we're trying to really drum up the need that we require. Some of the threads in the building program, especially later on, are thoughts. So they're like ideas we have that we want to integrate, but we don't have them in narrative form. So like a good one is Libby has contributed some information about like energy and I would say like green initiatives that the library wants to undertake. But what we really need is sort of those ideas expanded upon. So I'm going to say this, I am looking for contributions and for people to help me write pieces of the program. But an important component of this is that it be a singular voice. So even though you guys might write some of this up, I may have to kind of reword it so that it sounds like it's coming from me, if that makes sense. So I want that kind of understood since you're going to be approving the final grant. But I think you can kind of read the beginning and see kind of narratively where we're going, if that makes sense. Some of this stuff can be like Jane. I'm sorry to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, but some of the stuff you talked about with the ground outcomes and maybe even like collaborative efforts with the gardeners, like there's a little note in there where we talk about community collaborations,
Mhm.
but like that could be stuff that you could contribute potentially to. Like I kind of liked everything you said about working with DPW and making that kind of a plan. There's also just Marguerite. I think one of the things you could help out with maybe more than everybody else is a little bit of the library background. I contributed, like, did you know the name of the man who designed the building? Because that's in there, because I have that from all of our work on the CPA project. It's Alfred Cushman Cass, I think, if I'm remembering right. So like I have little details like that that we're sticking in. But if anybody has basically it's like read through it and what isn't there that needs to be there are the things I need from you. And I can,
This is really where we
yeah.
need to,
And I can, I'm
give it
sorry,
our
Janet.
all, right? Yeah.
So I can definitely give you guys more targeted outcomes like I just did with Jane and Marguerite, if that's what you're looking for. But like if you have a particular interest in like, again, a lot of the stuff is like LEED certification, municipal stretch code, things like of that nature. Janet and David, you were at some of the CPA meetings, so you could talk a little bit about some of the conversations that we had during that process and how that was really where space started to be identified as a problem because we weren't adding any more space and we were seeing that the building was kind of at capacity then, right? We are also looking at allocating square footage That'll be part of what's happening too. So I didn't forget you, Janet. I'm going to go to you
That's
in a
okay.
minute.
I
But
won't forget you.
we are, because of the survey in particular, the 42% of all participants said that they wanted to stay at the 25 Main Street site. That was significantly more than any of the other sort of buckets. And then it was over 20% said that they wanted to leave it up to us. And I think a big part of our conversations over the last year have been about making the continued investment on our site. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about why it's important to stay where we are a little bit. And then we also are trying to kind of roughly allocate, we're looking to add about at least 7,000 square feet. That is kind of the targeted outcome. A significant portion of that is going to go to youth services space. That is what the community wanted when we did the survey. So the children's room in particular, the teen room in particular, which is too small now, and the remaining space that we're going to allocate, 30% of it needs to be what's called unallocated space, which is for us to figure out with the architect in the ultimate plan. We're going to allocate some of the remaining additional space to a local history room, which I really want to get because we need to get that stuff in a climate controlled space. And what we're calling study areas, which if you've been to the Marlborough Library, and if you haven't, I will go and I will take pictures and send it to you, but they are sort of like plexiglass, glass enclosures where you can put a table and essentially 2 chairs, and people could either individually work or they could work in a group of 2. So we're kind of looking at adding 4 of those.
Those have TV screens in Westboro.
The TV screens are TBD. The grant is not going to pay for TV screens, is what I can tell you.
But I mean, those are common now in rebuilds, in additions.
Yeah, well, I mean, do we
Everybody
want people sitting and chilling on their TV? I don't know. But sorry, Janet, I cut you off while you were trying to ask a question.
I have a basic question. In the attachments that you sent us, there were 2 for this write-up. What was the difference between, item number 5 and item number 6 there? I printed out the 5th one and then looked at the 6th one, and I couldn't see any differences on that from this. I'm sorry, I'm counting from the
attachments, the
Yeah.
attachment numbers. I got you.
Yeah.
Right.
So the 2 documents you got, one is what we're doing through Google. We're making it a collaborative document where basically the staff are writing up stuff and I'm kind of going through and editing it. And we're having some of the staff who don't want to do any of the original writing pieces of it are editing other people's, right? So it's like truly a collaboration because some of our newer part-time people have had time to help on this. And we're like, read through this section and just see if you need to add anything or if you need to edit stuff. And some people are like, don't use this word, use this word. This isn't clear to me. Because what I'm trying to do is get like fresh takes on it. You know what I'm saying? Like people who aren't close to this at all, who can kind of give feedback whether or not it's making any sense. And in some cases, people are like, this entire 3 paragraphs doesn't make sense. So then we go back, we start trying to clarify so that it makes, and we've talked about it. You'll hear us talking a lot about the building when you're in the library too, because we're trying to kind of work this out for how it then gets worded into the building program. The more formatted Word document you got, Janet, is how that has to go into the state. So that's like the formatted version of it. A lot of the narrative elements of it are not integrated into that Word document yet because we're trying to make sure that the section is complete to the best of our knowledge before we put that in. So basically, as I work with all of you, and I'm going to continue working with the staff as well, we're going to be plugging in those into the Word document, and that's going to be kind of the final version. You do see some crisscross applesauce there. Anything that is in teal in the Drive document was already moved over. So a lot of that is the statistical information because that's non-narrative elements of the program.
So the teal is,
Which one should we be looking at,
yeah,
working with?
Anything that looks like it's a paragraph, like that it was a written out paragraph. You should be looking at
And
the
attachment number
non,
5.
no, yeah,
Attachment
so
number 5, not 6.
I'm gonna look at the way the
so
attachment.
this one starts with history of community. Is that the document you're talking about?
History, yeah, correct, Jane, absolutely right. The
Okay.
one that starts with the history of community is the one we're actively editing.
Okay, okay.
So that's
And
the
the
other one.
teal, what does the teal highlighting mean? Those are
So
statistics.
just the teal highlighting means that that is stuff that you can just skip past because
Okay.
it's already been put into the formatted version.
I didn't get any teal highlighting on mine.
Wow.
Okay, I don't think the
It's
colors
pretty
are
colorful.
present. Yeah, the colors are only present in the non PDF version. So I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up. That's
Okay.
Well,
like an
mine's
internal thing for us.
teal.
Yeah, yours is okay.
mine
Yours
is-
is Jane.
Yeah.
Okay, some of it is red too. It might be because you printed in black and white,
No,
Janet.
I've got blue here.
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's the
Yeah.
other form.
That's the wrong
That's
it's a
the
different
wrong
document.
document.
So the last attachment is the one with the colors.
I don't know. It says history of
But
community.
that's not what we should be looking at to edit. That's what my
Yeah.
question is.
No,
Well,
What's
why
the
don't
one
I do this?
The one you
So-
printed out is not the one you should be editing.
I will
Correct.
resend the one for edits. Okay.
Yes, good plan. Good
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
Okay, so now we've got Jane doing grounds and
Mhm.
gardens, etc. Me, library background. Janet and David, basically what was discussed in the CPA about.
We weren't here then. That predates both of our being on the board.
But does that
You mean the approval for the facade built?
matter? I mean, you still have the knowledge about it.
I've never been to a CPC meeting.
No,
But-
you went to the construction meetings, Janet, with the
Went to the
OPM and
construction
the,
meetings. Yes.
that's what I'm referring to.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
not the actual approval through CPC. Okay, fine. Yes.
No, what we're trying to garner is, and David was only at like 1 or 2 of those meetings, I think,
Right.
David, if I'm remembering. But this is mainly because in those discussions, we were talking about the building overall. So we were talking about deficiencies as part of that. And a lot of those were focused obviously more on the work and the historical considerations. But I do think that gives both of you a more unique perspective on the building itself and where some of the problems may be. So you, Janet, you may not have anything to contribute as a result of being at those meetings, but I would just say you might, and I would look at the overall.
Blackstone and May.
So there's like the other issues regarding the building, overall building condition, exterior and interior. I mean, a lot of you, like, again, this is putting Mary more on the spot, but Mary's been in the library as a patron too, and she uses the downstairs, I would argue, a lot more than the rest of you do currently, right?
Yep.
So I mean, Mary would have a unique perspective, I think, on the children's space as a user that would be helpful. So this is really the general needs assessment, I think, is more where like we could look, Jane, at the grounds and what needs to kind of be looked at there. But it is just go through it and see what you can and can't
Mhm.
contribute
Okay.
to. If you can't contribute anything, move on to the next section. That's kind of what we've been doing.
Okay.
And the different colors, I now see there's red and yellow. What's the red?
Red is something I'm supposed to complete that I haven't done yet.
Okay, and then wasn't there yellow highlighting somewhere?
Yes, that was a question Carol had as she was reviewing it.
Okay, and I just saw something green highlighting, sustainability.
Yes, those were
That is an actual important section to fill out, right? The green
Sustainability.
part?
Yeah, green was Libby contributed, and purple was, there was another staff member who did. I don't know
Okay,
which
so
one.
those are already edited, or we can still look at those?
Yeah, you can look at those. Those are, if it's in a color, it
Yeah.
basically means I have to review it.
Okay, all right, yeah,
Okay.
it's a big document, okay.
So
Okay, and you
I
will
have a
send-
question about
Go ahead.
the actual formatting here, because apologize for my naivete here with Google Docs, but so I'm looking at the history of community document. I know I'm looking at the right one. I'm looking at it as a preview, if you will. So if I click on open with Google Docs, that allows me to actively edit, and you will then see that.
Yeah, I can also, so if anybody's familiar with Google, which Mary is, and I know some people in the board are less, which is okay, but you can send edits to me and I can integrate them. Mary, with your level of skill, I can share the document with you, like we've been doing with the
Happy
staff.
to.
And you
Yep.
can actually go in and make the contributions to the document itself. So if anybody's familiar with like Google Drive and working with Google like that, that's okay. If you're not, that is also okay. You're just, remember when we said we might have to set up one-on-one meetings with me? So I don't want to highlight anyone in particular, but I am going to say hi, David. David and I will probably sit together in my office and make some
Okay.
of the edits while we're talking. And there's a value in that as well, Mary, because
Yeah.
David sometimes will ask me questions while we're editing documents, and then we find that maybe we have to add something there. So I would just say, don't feel like you have to edit in a vacuum or contribute in a vacuum. You can come and meet with me. And like, I think what's going to happen as you go through this document is it's going to generate more questions than ideas. And you may just be like, I have no idea. It might be, I have no idea the library did this. I had no idea this was a thing. Like, how do I help with the verbiage? You know?
Well, because I'm so new, I mean, I did read through this whole thing. I'm up to speed on a lot of it, but I'm wondering, you said in the beginning too that there are sections that are quite deliberately almost like bullet points. They're not in the narrative yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I can identify some of those, but I could see that that's a place that I could help you if you would like me to transform the facts that are there into a narrative that matches your voice. And if you could target for me which ones would be most like I mean, I know they're all a priority, but are there ones that you'd rather have done sooner rather than later? If you could just kind of highlight those for me, or I'd be happy to take a crack at that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You may
can.
live to regret that, Mary, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think the first place that we're going to start with, Mary, is some of the sustainability, energy efficient stuff like
Yep.
that. Because I had Libby kind of help out with that because it's very important to Libby, and she has had ideas on making the library more energy efficient and green. And what I can tell you is Massachusetts is very interested in reducing or eliminating carbon footprints and going to complete renewables by 2050. Like, we're going in line with those sort of federal goals as much as possible. And we're going to see a lot more coming from Massachusetts on that, I think, in the next decade. So that is something where, in talking with the state grant consultants, they're like, reduce, you make your building like solar energy is something that we're looking at because we have to. We've talked in previous meetings about doing energy vehicle charging stations in the parking lot. That's going to enter into the program as well. Those are all in the bullet points, but this
Yeah.
is sort of like what we're looking to do. And I mean, again, I can help with this too. Like, don't feel like no one is on their own. Like, this is going to be a true team effort in the next 2 weeks as we finish this up.
And we shouldn't just have to, we should do it because it's the right thing. Let's put that on there.
Yes,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
will say, I have never felt a cohesive synergy with the board more than I do right now with all of you. And Mary, I know you're new, but we've worked a lot together on the Friends. And I think there's a lot of really great minds here. And I think translating this into both where the library is at right now as a snapshot and then where we need to be in the next 30 years, that's really what we're doing as a result of this document. And what does the building need to have in it? What do the grounds need to have in it that will help us serve the community in the way that we need to?
So Ryan, what's new to me, which I think is really good, is that it's been focused in, all right? If you want more square feet, the 7,000 square feet, we need a teen place, we need a children's place, we need a local history room, and we need 4 study spaces. That's not a huge addition, but it's what I think it would make a huge difference because it's pinpointed for exactly what we need.
So just to give you guys further background, and I know Janet and Mary both want to say something, but I will say because you'll be reading through this, and again, there'll be some questions. I have had many questions, and Andrea and Heather from MBLC are really sick of me. They already got 2 emails this morning. So one of the very bizarre things is population. So as far as projected population, we are right now are at 10,400 according to the census estimate, right? Because they only do it every 10 years on the 10-year. So we're like, halfway through that right now. So it's 10.4K, right? The projected, we had to use a state model. Mariana did this to predict the population of Southborough in 30 years. Very oddly, you would think population would go up, right? Not in Southborough. The population is actually projected using this, I think it's called the UDMI model, to go down. Not significantly, but it'll go down to about 8.8K. So
That makes no sense.
I'm telling you,
No.
Janet,
With the whole MBTA communities thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Janet, I was right there with you. This is apparently not unique in smaller towns that are in central and western Massachusetts.
We're going to
This is
start
not,
tearing down homes and putting
yes.
farms back up.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
this is the
really.
thing is north and eastern in Massachusetts is projected to like basically blow up with population. Central and western is projected to go down as a result. And I think part of that model is why there's such an investment in the transportation infrastructure, because it's not going to change unless transportation becomes a major priority of the Commonwealth, right? So we have to go by this model because that's what they want for the grant application. So I did freak out because I was like, how are we supposed to be talking about a bigger library when population is going to be potentially decreasing as a result of this model we have to use? So then I will quote Andrea a little bit. I'll paraphrase. She gave a really good point, which was, well, the library was added on to, right, in 1989 because the population of Southborough went through like a big explosion, right? The town almost doubled in size from about 3,500 to about 7,000 in the 70s. You guys might not know this. See, I have to know all this
more like
stuff now.
6,600, I think, in the early 80s.
Yeah. So, okay. So there you go. So I'm rounding up, Janet, which I probably should be more precise because we're talking smaller population numbers, but Janet's right. Like it was right around there. So Andrea said in your building program, you need to address whether or not your current facility is meeting the needs of your community right now. And when we have to answer that question, the question is no.
Absolutely no.
Because it was built in 89 to address a population increase. And since then, population has gone up. And even in this population projection, it's still going to be higher than it was in order to serve a community where it was built. Does that make sense?
That's good to know, Ryan.
Where did I read that in your narrative?
I'm going to write this up. It's not
Okay.
there.
It's not there yet.
It's not there. So I'm not done yet, Mary. I'm going to be contributing more to it, just like you are.
Well, just because exactly, I mean, just roll the tape back and type that out, Ryan, because it was perfect.
Girl, you know I'm going to, okay? So I will also say the statement of needs, which is a big part of the plan, you will see kind of like an objective action and then a table that's been put in there. That was actually copied and pasted from one of the library's previous strategic plans. That is kind of a model that the state likes a lot of those objectives are things we've already done. So we are looking to update that table, and that is a little bit more bullet. This is because the staff were using so many like bullet points. It was driving me crazy. So I actually put in something where we could just do bullet points if we wanted to, as far as objectives and actions. We can take out the table, we can take out that language. That was just there so that we could have a model for how to do it if we needed to.
And then if I could just say, because I know Marguerite's absolutely right, those very succinct points you made about what the 7,000 square feet would encompass, like what those needs were. I will also just say, I mean, we all know this anyway, but the way under accessibility that it was already sort of indicated, the real critical issues about how all people of all stripes enter the library, that has to be just a huge red flag for the people who are going to be reading this grant, as opposed to, in terms of like the need here and the fact that the addition would address that. So that I would just encourage that to get like really punched up, because that to me was critical.
That's really good. Are the stacks legally wide enough apart for a wheelchair? No.
Yes. So legally, yes. The stacks need to be 36 inches apart for ADA, but ADA recommends doing them 42 inches apart. So the goal of the building program will be to have shelving that's 42 inches apart. That is why our current teen space is insufficient. We can get the 36 inches. We can't get the 42.
Yeah. Okay. So Mary, that's really good. ADA,
agreed.
really need help.
Yeah.
So ADA and green are two areas that really need help. I mean, never mind that our teen space is basically a cellar, you know.
We are looking in the new library to propose that the current teen room site and Eaton may become dedicated storage spaces, which MBLC recommends allocating space for storage. If we run out of space, we may look at converting Eaton potentially as the local history room, but I really don't like that idea because that's the lowest point in the building and that's where it's flooded in the past.
It's wet, yeah, and it's not a good room. Why should we stick history in the basement, right?
We also can't do independent climate control, which has to be one of the primary objectives of the local history room.
Okay, can I?
Yep.
Okay, so I feel like I'm coming with this comment late to the party, but this is the first time we've really, as trustees, looked at specifically what we want to add.
Yep.
And I know there's been tons of feedback on the children's room, tons of feedback on teen room facilities, but I haven't seen, or I mean, you brought it up, Brian, but I don't know what the draw is for the local history room. And my concern is that given that it has to be climate controlled, it's going to be an expensive piece. And I just think that we should have to have a lot of documented need to include that. Because again, remember, we're going to have to sell this to the town at some point, and we want to make sure that we've done it as cost efficiently as possible for what we get out of it. So I've got a concern about the local history room.
I have to just make a comment here too, because I've been back and forth with Michael Wyshawn, who's creating the new Historic Society building.
Just at a standstill, I believe, but yeah.
Excuse me?
I think it's at a standstill.
Okay.
Anyway.
We were talking about the outside, of course, the gardens, but they also had offered to store the gardeners have been in existence for 50 years. So we were looking for a place to store that sort of thing, and in conversation with them. So how is the library and the Historic Society going to split up? I think that's something that just has to be talked about, because do you know what I'm saying? Where does everything go?
So
Jane, I
Janet,
can talk to you after about this if you want.
Well, okay.
let me address Janet's concern, and Jane, I think you're actually bringing up a really good point that inadvertently I think is going to help me. So Janet, we have an existing
You just froze.
historical collection now that we have spent over the last as part of our reference collection. So we need a sufficient, are you guys freezing?
No,
You're
freezing.
Are you
freezing.
there? Can you hear
We're
me?
here.
No,
I
we
can
can hear
hear
you. Why
you.
don't you just keep talking? Your
Just
your
keep
video's
talking.
frozen, but your voice is okay.
Oh, hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, my computer was freezing. I had to go upstairs to plug it in and I think I lost internet. Okay.
Okay.
So we have a current local history room now that needs to be sufficiently housed.
Where is it?
So it upstairs, it doesn't have its own room. The
Yeah.
collection is at the end of the reference area.
Okay.
So that includes includes a lot of physical documentation we've got from the town clerk's office as they become digital, right? They're like digitizing everything. They have donated a significant amount of materials to the library as a
Okay.
result of that. So it includes a collection of annual reports. There's also a lot of like yearbooks that we've gotten from many previous like high schools, including Peters, which doesn't exist anymore, the old high school. And then like a variety of different historical ephemera, right? We've had Tony Viver, who's the archivist at the Westboro Library, took a look and did an inventory for the collection. And then before we did the historic facade CPA project, we actually hired our own archivist who helped to further inventory our collection as well as work with the Historical Society. So we were trying to collaborate with them back then, Jane. What we would like is to have a facility where an organization like the Southborough Gardeners that people may have a interest in doing research on would have a facility to donate that to, and then have those records be publicly accessible and findable in the library's catalog. So I do believe our collection is different than what the Historical Society is trying to achieve. Whether or not we can find potentials for future collaborations, I think is definitely on the table. But we are not going to be adding a lot of ancillary meeting rooms. Having this be like a dedicated space at the library will be able to house the historical collection, but then also sort of by default provide a programming space for something like the poetry group or
So it'd
road.
be a meeting room, in other words, you're saying.
So it's going to be a space we can also use for programs potentially, but it will have a dual purpose, as many of the things at the library do. But the primary purpose is to have an area for the existing local history collection where it can be housed.
I think Jane's asking, is it redundant? Because we've got the commission, we've got the Historical Society where whenever it functions. The townhouse is digitizing a lot of really old documents. I don't know where they're going, like from the 1700s. And then we've got the library. So is it redundant to have I'm devil's advocating. Is it redundant to have a historical space at the library?
I mean, we can, again, in the final approval of the building program, we can eliminate a local history room, but we have a collection currently that needs a home that
Well,
doesn't exist.
Can you do it? Sorry, go ahead.
But if we put it in this document, aren't we committing that part of the end result will include that? I mean, that's what I don't want to commit to something here that we end up saying, oh boy, we didn't realize that the square footage was going to cost so much for climate control thing. Let's pull that. Can we do
So
that?
just to give you an idea, a meeting room that's equivalent to the size we're looking for is about 800 square feet, which isn't an insignificant portion of what we're looking to add. But, and there'll be additional square footage we have to calculate in order for shelving units that also get placed into that room. So I can tell you it's definitely not going to exceed 1,000, but it's not insignificant. You're right, Janet. But I do think that this is something where, like, we asked about a lot of outcomes in the survey, And I wish more people cared about a local history room than did. I'll say that. But also, there are things that kind of have to happen, in my opinion, in the new library. And this is one of them. A cafe, I don't think needs to, and didn't seem
No.
like there was interest in.
What about more meeting rooms?
We talked a lot about meeting rooms in previous meetings,
Mhm.
and I think there was a lot of concern about if we let this group meet, we have to let all groups meet, right? I don't think any of those concerns are different from when we discussed this before.
Okay, but
And
so let me just interrupt.
Janet and I's work on the
Yeah.
Community Center Exploration Committee,
Yep.
it was communicated to us that in pursuing the community center, that that was really going to be where a lot of the town's meeting needs would be met.
As
So
it
Is that
should.
ever gonna
limited by
happen?
closing at 9 o'clock. I mean, it's not for afternoon meetings for whatever would group, not very many groups meet then.
Mhm.
For town government meetings, a 9 o'clock closing puts it's not useful.
Okay. All right, that answers that question because I know there's big call for more meeting space because people can't always have their meetings because there's no room for it. So if
But there,
that's,
there
if
are,
that's,
people just don't know where to go. So the town's gonna have to do a better job of that.
yeah,
Like I said,
So-
like we'll get ourselves in quite a mire at some point if we open them to outside groups. So Mary, I see you keep wanting to say.
No, I was just going to say, I just want to draw the distinction between meeting space and program space and just ask a quick question to Ryan about, expanding the children's room and the teen room. The thing that kept coming through both in this document and in all the surveys was the fact that you can't have a program at the library without disrupting normal library goers, right? That you
Right.
need to use that basic upper space. So I realize this is getting ahead of ourselves, but in the new library, would there be a separate program space like contained within that children's teen area? Or is it just because there will be more space at the library in general, it will feel less intrusive to have that main space taken over by a program? So I
Yeah.
just want to make the distinction between like meeting space and library program space.
Yeah, so in the past, the library provided a meeting room, sort of pre-COVID, for anybody that wanted, any community
Yeah.
nonprofit group that wanted to book it. So this definition became very loose, is what I can say, because we had Toastmasters groups that would come in, they would charge people for attendance, right? So that right now is not I can understand they're a nonprofit, but they're charging people money in order to attend.
To use the library.
So, and people got upset at me about that. That was not. So also some of the groups wanted to store things at the library, which we don't have enough room to store stuff ourselves. We transitioned to turning Eaton into what we call a program room. And really what that means is it needs to be a designated library program on the library's calendar. It needs to be free and it needs to be accessible to everyone. So a lot of people bring up that Rotary meets at the library. The Rotary Club of Southborough does meet at the library with the understanding that their meetings at the library are publicly on our events calendar, are public library events, and that can be attended by anybody who wants, including unpaid members of Rotary. They have also had guest speakers that they've done in collaboration with the library, including like a young student at St. Mark's who did something on a fetal defect recently. The Board of Health has presented to them a number of times, including like an evaluation on restaurants. So these are a couple examples. To answer your question about the expansion of teen and children's and teen both need more spaces for more books, as
You're
what
right.
adult does too. Every place is getting more space for new books in the recalc square footage. Children's is getting probably the most space, I would say, in the room itself, because it's so jam-packed down there and it houses so much of the physical collection of the library, even though the books are a lot thinner, right? So they fit over a smaller amount of space. On top of what the bigger children's room will be, there will also be an ancillary program room. And that is going to also be very similar to what Marlborough did. Again, we're using Marlborough's a lot as a model.
Good.
They have a dedicated room that's just for children's programs that's right off of the children's room. The teen room will be getting a similar space, but it is going to specifically house the Idea Lab equipment. So it will be, we're calling it the Idea Lab, right? But really that is also for additional teen programs. They don't have to be specifically tied to the creative technology that's going to be used there. So there was going to be no additional rooms to the adult space, but the local history room, because the local history collection needs its own space that needs to be climate controlled, because the documents need to be preserved over time. That is why that was identified as an additional space. So I
Okay,
don't
just
know if that,
sorry, Ryan,
Yeah.
go ahead. I just says parenthetically, we have a hard stop at 1, everybody.
okay. So I don't know if this addresses your question, Janet, but we're not going to like give our collection away, right? Like we're going to keep the stuff that we're cataloging and we have as part of the library's collection. So we need to build a space that can accommodate that.
So this is a good discussion to continue about the historical part, because if Janet flagged it, it means that a lot of people will flag it. So I think that's a good discussion to continue.
We can also not allocate a specific local history room. There's going to be 30% of the building that we don't allocate towards any space, but I do think a space for the historical collection needs to be an overall goal. So we don't have to give it, if you're, I don't know if this helps to address your concern, Janet, but we cannot make it like a specific square footage outcome. I do think it's going to help in the building program if we have that. But if you are recommending, I want us to be more agreed than unagreed about what we're adding into the space. If that
I
makes
just
sense.
want the discussion to happen. What did we have before the town clerk started giving us their hard copies of things?
We had it,
What did we have? What kind of items did we have?
it was in Eaton, the yearbooks, the annual reports. We have some books, some like historical books. So there's these like, I'm
We
trying to
got the
think.
paintings. There were the paintings.
There's
a lot
also
of
stuff there's not a lot of paintings in it, I can tell you, Marguerite. There's also not a lot of photographs because a lot of that was donated to the Historical Society before I got there.
Was it the society or the commission?
The society. Photographs were there was a lot of material donated to the society at one point, but
So these aren't
prior
things like of value, like, like a signed document from John Adams or anything like that.
No,
So
there's
it's
nothing
not-
that I would say that's significantly financially valuable.
Okay, so let me just jump in for 2 seconds,
I
because
didn't
Jim
hear the
Haggerty is
whole-
digitalizing a lot of stuff in the basement of the townhouse, and a lot of it is that old, Janet. And the question is, where's it going?
Well, that's just it is again,
Yep.
when we're all
Right.
done with all of this and we have somebody who's designed it, whatever, we're going to come up with a big fat number that we need to get the town to approve, even if X% of it is paid for. The new school that they're talking about, this was shocked. If they rebuild the Neary thing, they're talking about it costing $110 million.
More.
110 million. I mean, we just did the safety building for less than
Public
30
safety.
million, and now they're talking 110 million. I am panicked that we will go through all of this work and people will pick apart things like a climate controlled history room.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I don't know what this number, I mean, construction costs have ballooned. We just
Yeah,
did
what's the value added for the
we just did the facade for what looks like such a bargain basement price right now. We're going to get to the end and people are going to pick things apart. And I don't think anybody's going to debate that we need more rooms for stack. We need more rooms for teens. We need more rooms for children. I just don't want there to be something else poking its head up when Jim Haggerty could have gone for some money to create a space to, preserve those things himself.
Well,
So
Janet, I
question.
think, I'm sorry, but I'm going to respond, Marguerite. if
Okay,
it's
go
okay.
ahead.
I'm just gonna say, when you start kind of playing the what if game on what are people gonna pick apart, there's gonna be people who say, well, the library's statistics say that ebook usage is higher than print usage. So why are you adding more space to print books? Because we're buying more and we're having to delete stuff out of the collection. So, I mean, there is a rationale and a reason for why we would do everything. I'm telling you as the director, we should have some sort of space that is its own area that houses the local history collection. What that space looks like, I think partially is for our OPM and our architect to give input on, right? It might end up being a much smaller space than I'm initially envisioning. And then again, if the MBLC recommends having a climate controlled space for local history, but maybe we don't need one. I mean, again, I need to talk to people who build these spaces in a more concentrated way than I have familiarity with, right? I can tell you we don't have a lot of esoteric special collections that would go in their own area. The local history collection is kind of its own thing. That's why we were envisioning it in its own space. So that, I guess, is sort of the background. But I think if we start playing they're going to pick this apart. Like, does the children's room need its own programming space? Like, we say yes. That doesn't preclude anybody else from getting up and saying that we don't.
No,
You know what
but
I mean?
you have data, but you have data from the meetings and from surveys and stuff that support it.
And
Yeah.
MBLC likes the idea of it.
So I guess the bottom line question is, if we write it in this proposal,
Yep.
are we 100% committed to that has to be part of the final?
Are we locked in, right?
Well, it's a proposal, so I think there's still subject to change it. But I think Janet, you and I should get together on how the wording for the local history room should be in there. And
You know
I
what?
think
Can we just
maybe
go ahead? I was just going to say, I don't think it should just be you and Janet. I think it should be the whole board.
then we have to have another meeting before the 31st,
Well,
Marguerite.
maybe that's not the worst thing to do. I don't
Okay.
know. What does everybody think? It's just, I think children's, yes. Teen, yes. Study spaces, yes. I do have questions about the history. I'm not saying no. And I think
Well-
people would donate stuff if we had a room like that, but I'm wondering if somebody would use this as a reason to vote against it. That's the only thing. And
Okay.
Well, and
I have a
don't know.
suggestion that might do it.
Janet,
I mean, we also, I mean, I brought this up and Janet said it's dead in the water, but we have a historical society that has its own collection. It's in that little tiny house. I mean, that's either
Flags.
going to go in somewhere new or somewhere else. Does that mean things are split up? I don't really understand how the division is determined.
So flag school may become youth and families, in which case all the stuff in there will be will travel to different places. It's not quite clear where yet.
Well, maybe if we just say that it's a room, maybe if we just say we'd have dedicated space to preserve local history items or have them be able to be studied or whatever, but don't say climate controlled. Then we could add climate controls in the design process, but we wouldn't have committed to it.
That's antithetical for what they want us to do for the building program, Janet. I'm just telling you that. They
Yes,
want you
the
to
library.
They
board.
want you to state what the space is, what
Yeah.
its intended purpose is, and what are all the things you need for that space. So you're saying, let's not put climate control in it when MBLC recommends specifically for preservation, you put climate control in that space.
You know, they're asking us to designate a lot of stuff without enough information. You know, if we knew that it was going to put 20% more on the cost, we'd say, yeah, maybe we wouldn't do that.
So
And-
cost is not supposed to be the factor right now. What the factor is putting in what the library needs. That's what the building program is supposed to be. So I understand that you're already thinking about the cost. And I don't think you can completely remove the cost from your brain 100% during any part of this process. I
God.
think part of the reason for giving I'm not saying you, I'm saying me too, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that is why when really we were pressed, especially during the community center. I mean, Janet has also been doing a lot more of this as part of the community center stuff. So
Right.
like our brains have been in this methodology for like over a year, right? Where like money didn't not come up in every conversation, let's be real. So you really need to put in everything that the library needs. And this was difficult too, because I'm saying about 7,000 more square feet, but we could add a lot more. I think part of the reason why I'm giving kind of a target of square footage is sort of to control the cost. I'm just hoping that they
That's
do.
also
Okay,
what,
so
that's what capital improvement came up with as numbers for, our town size and as a $7,000 or $8,000 extension.
Yeah, we're not basing it on nothing, right?
so here's my question. Does Hopkinton have a climate controlled history room?
I don't,
Does
Marguerite, I
Marlborough
don't know.
have one? Does Bolton have? I mean, our library's all doing this.
Yes, I know. Richard and I, when he was on the board, toured the, was it Franklin Public Library? And they have a climate controlled storage room and they have their own historical vault. They house most of the town's historic records. And it's kind of like, if we don't know what the status of the historical museum is going to be long
Right.
term,
Yep.
there also may be more of an appetite if the library has a dedicated space
Yep.
to make the library the reliquary of like, sorry, not reliquary, because that's like,
Dead
but like
Saints
the
bones, right?
receptacle, right? The receptacle of like historical. I'm not saying that I want that. I'm just saying that we're looking to add infrastructure
Mhm.
that would help our collection, and that may breed more donations
I
and
think it's
collaboration
true,
with other town
definitely. Yep.
departments.
Yep.
But we don't want to end up with some organization's stuff taking up, program space from kids, which was one of our goals.
Yeah, but we do have a criteria of collection for local history. We have a policy on that. So we don't accept anything that is outside of that scope.
I'm wondering too if some of this might be absorbed by just the general need across the board to regulate climate control at the library proper, like to put the library back in control of its own heating and cooling. And then this just becomes a piece of that. Because if the room that you're describing as this local history room is also doubling as a meeting room, you're not effectively like
You're not climate controlling it. Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's doubling as a program room. Sorry, I
Mhm.
just want to make that
I
distinction.
know.
because I'm not doing
Sorry.
meeting
Yeah.
rooms. No, it's okay.
A program room.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
But-
it seems
but-
like it might be covered under that umbrella
Yeah.
rather than it's not a separate storage room that is going to have its own unique controls.
So when we're talking about the deficiencies of the building, it's very clear that you saw a lot of comments, I think, from the staff that were integrated, is that the upstairs is either too hot or too cold, and the upstairs is the opposite, right? So we cannot, even despite working with facilities to redo all of the HVAC several years ago, we cannot seem to get a handle on, once the addition was added, on properly heating and cooling the building the way that it currently is now.
Uniformly.
It's a massive deficiency of the building. So I don't know if this helps to address this, Janet, but like climate control needs to be a big part of what we do in a renovated or new, but renovated facility, right? Is that we need to, I also do not have the ability to turn the temperature up and down. That was very alarming to
Wow.
NBC when I brought that up, is
Yeah.
that has to be like, the library needs control over its own temperature. That was an outcome that needs to be put into the program.
So where are we on this? We're not sure about the history room because we all need more data, I think.
Well, why don't we start working on this, right? And then now we're back to, do you want to have another meeting to discuss some of this? I do,
So
Marguerite.
is there anything you can send around, Ryan, that would be about the history room, like information you got from the state that would give us the background that you have now? Because you're saying that they're encouraging that for history. And I believe also if we had it, people would donate stuff to it, but Okay.
Well, I want to say, I mean, like, this is kind of why I said I was going to work with everybody one-on-one, because they
maybe
want
we-
like a single author of the building program. But I do think Janet and I don't think Janet and I are far apart on this. I think if I get together with her or even talk to her after this,
Gonna bring his baseball bat.
no, but like I think we can word in an area for local history collection that is I mean, I keep calling it a room. I mean, I do think it needs to be in its own space, but I don't, if Janet really disagrees with this and we can come to a compromise, I think it just ends up in the program that way.
So here's the other part of it. We have a lot of local history stuff in those glass cabinets and those vitrines in the big room.
Yeah, we have exhibits currently.
Where are
We
they
have
from?
two from our local history collection. Those are our materials that are on
And
display.
the poor things are not climate controlled at this point, but yes, there is a lot of stuff in there. That's
We
really
don't have them in direct light on
Yeah.
purpose so that we don't degrade any of the paper.
Right. So there is things there. Okay, so listen, if it's okay with everybody, Janet, why don't you and Ryan pursue this more? And the rest of us sort of have our marching orders for except Amy, yes, Donnie, which part are you going to deal with, do you think?
You'll help me with.
I had to put on my my stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, the dogs are running around. They're loud.
I have some ideas, Amy.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I figured Ryan would give me something that would work, so I don't have a problem.
Okay, so Ryan, would this make your life a little bit easier if we all take our segments and run with it and get back to you with what we've prepared?
Yeah, do you guys want to meet like on Monday of next week to discuss any of the changes, and I can send out a revised draft?
You know, that's Memorial Day.
Does anybody want to meet Tuesday of next week so we
Is
can
this
send out a
again?
revised draft?
Do we need to, or not? What do we think?
I think, first of all, I think the local history room discussion was valuable. I'm
Yep.
glad that that's the thing that we were talking about, not more space for children's and teens, because I thought that was very apparent from the data, right?
Yep.
So, but let's make sure, because I don't think everybody's going to be 100% happy with every single thing that's in the program.
No, I
let's
agree.
Oh,
start there.
Ryan, what a
But-
negative attitude.
But
No.
Are you kidding?
I also did get my question answered. If we write it in here, we're committing to it.
yeah, correct. Yes.
We can't change it later.
We
Oh.
can we can add stuff that wasn't in the building program, but subtracting stuff from the building program, I would say no, Janet.
So here's my question then. We build this room and the historical center gets, you know, as it wants to be, and the town really wants everything in one spot. Can we use that room for something else at some point? And like if we move all our historical collections.
Yes, because Ryan is expanding the library's contemporary art collection by
there we
this
go.
most recent donation. So maybe there will be something like that to fill it in the future.
Modified but similar use.
I
Can we
don't
modify?
I don't
Yeah.
think they would like it if we built a space for something and then end up using it for something else. I'll just say that. I think that's also not in the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish.
So
No, I
Ryan
get that, but things
Road, I'm
change.
sure that's-
I'm not saying we switch it, bait and switch. I'm saying that things change in towns.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
it's
call it-
down the road. I'm sure everything is going to be in different spots. It's
Could
Yeah,
it be
and climate
historical
controlled
collection
is what?
art?
Humidity? I mean,
Yeah, it's being able to alter the thermostat so that it can be colder or hotter in there.
which
So
is
can
like,
we do
it must
art?
have a humidity component, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's
Can we add art to historical things and art or something like that? So
I'm just wondering whether it has to have one of those pressure sealed doors if it's
No.
humidity.
No, that's
no,
not,
it's
that's
like a
not
museum, right?
no, that's not independent climate control, Janet. It's just
Yeah.
a matter of being able to alter the temperature within the room apart from all of the other areas of the library. So like if the library was warmer, for example, in the main area, the local history collection could be cooler to keep it at an even temperature. That
I
it
could
would
see somebody going in there to have a meeting and say, God, it's freezing in here.
Yeah, but I could also, I don't think we'd give patrons control over the thermostat.
Right.
Let me put it like that.
No, that's the
So
steel
when
cage
you
over
hit it,
there.
that's the exact distinction you need to make, by the way. Like that's it exactly. Saying climate control means a very different thing in a museum environment than what you're talking about, which
Okay.
is actually just being able to move a dial in the room.
Yeah, I think that's more what they're looking to achieve.
Right, so it doesn't need the little humidity thing in every corner saying you've got too much humidity
See,
or
I
whatever.
said we weren't far apart, everyone, because I knew we weren't.
Well, then I think we should change the word climate controlled and just say temperature control.
Temperature control. Okay,
Can
Okay.
you?
you guys, I
That's
have
all
to
it is,
go.
then that's
I have
okay.
to leave, so,
Yeah.
I hope there's more meeting, but I won't be here for it.
I do. I
Okay,
think we
so
should
Jane
just,
is on her way. Thank you, Jane.
bye, Jane.
Where are you going?
PT?
Oh, I thought you were like going.
No, I just can't be sitting at my desk. I have to be in the car.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Sorry. I know this was a long one, everyone.
Well, no, this is our first heavy duty
It really
construction
is. We
grant.
haven't discussed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you guys? I think we should meet again on Tuesday morning, 11.
We're talking
Is
the
it okay?
28th, right? Yep.
And then we'll try to get a revised draft of this out. Saturday. Is that okay? That gives
Yes.
people 2 days.
It is Memorial Day weekend. I'm not sure we're wildly busy, but yeah.
We should, as
Well, I
library
don't get-
trustees, we should have no life apart
Well,
from.
I'm not really getting. I mean, this is my Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
Is what
I know, we're supposed to be helping you.
No, it's okay. But Janet, I didn't mean to get this stuff to you this late. There are, I'm telling you, 300 components that need to go into the application. And I'm still working on some of the ancillary parts. Like I was going over that. We don't even address as part of the building program, the secondary site option. That's a whole separate piece that Marguerite was
Yeah.
helping me
Don't
with a
worry
little
about the
bit.
dates. I couldn't have done anything in the last 2 weeks anyway. So
I know. So, and I mean, you were not the only one. And then it's like, this is part of the reason why I recruited the staff. And I know I'm asking you guys for like an 11th hour help out with this, but at the same time, it's like, this isn't going to get done with me on my own. And you can already see a lot of work has gone into this. So there's a foundation there. I think it's just a matter of building the library that we want in
Right.
this narratively and then submitting.
Okay, so we'll discuss this at our next meeting. And
What
what
you're
we,
gonna send
our
out is
job,
another copy of the correct thing that we're supposed to be looking at.
yes, please
So
email that. And our
you-
job is to get wordage to you as soon as
Yeah.
we can on our area.
you'll get in the revised draft, Janet, I'm gonna
Mhm.
just send out the Word document and it will have everything in it
Okay.
okay, so there won't be multiple, so it won't be confusing. I'm
Good,
sorry.
and we won't use the Google Docs for that. We'll just send it to you.
Trying to put it all in Word was like becoming too complicated to send to you
Yeah.
Yeah.
on Friday. It just was, we were trying, I swear.
Yeah. That's okay.
So
Did
what
you
I'm
wanna
seeing
meet
is,
at 3 o'clock tomorrow, Ryan?
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
perfect.
all right. So what I'm seeing, Ryan, is that you may feel more overburdened than you did 2 hours ago.
No, I actually feel a lot better. I honestly, the local history room discussion was helpful. I mean, maybe that, honestly, the more things we take out of the program, the more, and I'm not saying we are, but if we end up kind of putting that more as a ancillary thing, it
Mhm.
ends up being easier for me because then we
Mhm.
don't have to allocate the square footage. It started, new space, I'm telling you, is already at a premium. And we have to leave a third of what we're adding unallocated.
Mhm.
So that it doesn't give a lot of space to children's and teens at the
No.
beginning
No.
for that.
Well, also to Janet's point, as much as I regret this and hope the outcome will be very different, I do think we as a library are going to have more discussion than we might want, given what's going to go on with Neary. I just
You're gonna
think
try
that
to kill it, basically.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah. So anything we can do to preliminarily make this look as good as possible and as attractive and advantageous as possible, I think is going to serve us well in the long run.
Yes, now is the time to find all the possible objections. So anyway, all right, do I have okay, so we're set for 11 o'clock via Zoom on the 28th, which is Tuesday. And we all have our assignments, which we're going to be very interested in doing and get to you. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Oh, Mary.
Here, you have to jump in there.
I mean,
You go. That's good. Okay, Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Rainy eye.
Duckburg, aye.
Tinty eye.
All right, and over and out all, and we'll see
Did
you
you?
on.
Okay, you did.
Have a
28th.
good holiday weekend.
All right, yes.
Okay, so
Everybody,
just
okay.
to clarify, we're gonna
Yes.
have a Tuesday morning meeting and then also a Friday afternoon meeting, I
Yes.
believe, to do the final approval.
Oh, Friday I thought was at 11.
Well,
No, I
Let's-
want
Ja-
Mary to be there if we
We
can.
said 11
well,
before.
Janet, you had mentioned that. So just for some clarification on Friday's meeting, is it literally like, because we will have read everything in advance, is
Yes.
Friday's meeting pretty perfunctory and it's just like an approval? Or
Yep.
is it another meeting like this where we're sort of like hashing things out for 2 hours?
No, it's
I
a
think it
rubber
has to
stamp
be.
meeting.
Yeah.
If it's a rubber stamp, I'm good for 11 o'clock.
If we discuss it, right, if you guys discuss it on Friday, there's no time to make edits.
To
and
do
then
anything
we
different.
Yeah.
reapprove.
Friday is
Yep.
just,
So
yes, okay,
you
so
can-
can we
11
do
o'clock on
11?
Friday is fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
we'll-
cannot approve it and then we won't apply. So don't do that.
Oh, Ryan, don't even say those words.
Okay.
Oy, oy, oy.
Where's that hanging rope?
All right, so 11 on Tuesday, 11 on Friday. All right,
No,
goodbye,
oh,
everybody, and
okay,
thank you.
11. We're doing 11 on Friday? That's
Yep.
okay. All right.
Mary said she can do
Is that
it
okay
5.
for you, Ryan? Or is that too early for you to?
No, that's fine.
Okay.